Taft family, if that name sounds familiar, a cousin of the owner, went on to become president of the United States. That's William Howard Taft. William Howard Taft was a big baseball fan. He's famous in baseball circles for a couple of reasons. First of all, he's the first president while in office to throw out a first pitch in a ball game. Every president since, with the exception of Jimmy Carter, has done the same thing. And then he also was at a game in Washington while he was president, and about halfway through the game decided to stand up and stretch out his legs, and because the president stood up, and he was a very big man, everybody else around him stood up as well, and that created the 7th inning stretch that we now honor every game. So he's famous for those two reasons. To buy the Cubs, Charlie Weigman needed some financial help. So he put together a team of investors here, high rollers in Chicago, Jonathan Ogden Armour Meatpacking, Armour Hot Dog, and a guy by the name of William Wrigley. Wrigley had initially started a business manufacturing soap, baking powder, products like that. As an incentive to his customers, he'd have a little stick of banana gum on the boxes. That got to be so popular, he retooled his whole business plan, stopped manufacturing the other stuff, started making chewing gum, started making what we now call Juicy Fruit, Wrigley's Juicy Fruit Gum. So with Weigman leading this group of guys, they bought the Cubs, they moved them here for the 1916 season. The park didn't miss a season of baseball. A couple years after that, a couple things happened. The World War I began, okay, and then there was a flu epidemic that hit here in Chicago. All of a sudden, no one was going to Charlie Weigman's lunch counters anymore. And so he started having some financial problems and started selling off his shares of the team. Wrigley started buying them up. By about 1920, he became the primary shareholder of the team and of the park. Gave the name Cubs Park to the stadium in 1920, and then finally gave it the name Wrigley Field in 1926. So Charlie Weigman was kind of phased out pretty quickly. However, not before making some pretty significant changes in the game worth noting. Number one, I mentioned he's a food guy. The way concessions were sold back in those days was in the aisles of stadiums. So you can see this aisle going around the seating bowl there. Imagine that aisle loaded up with all these carts, steamer carts. They're selling hot dogs out of those. And then these soft drink carts would have lemonade and sodas. Some of those would have a big umbrella sticking out of it, and a big crowd of people. And anybody sitting on the other side of that aisle would be pretty miserable trying to watch a ball game. Fans complained about it. Charlie Weigman innovated the idea of concession stands in this stadium. The first concession stands ever built in a sporting venue were right here, all the way in the back of that lower deck. There's 2 concession stands. Those were the first ones they ever built here before they built them underneath the stands.